found wanting. There are reports on the degradation and the fires that killed 77 people in the city last year. Nobody's been held accountable. We're taking far too long to deal with the theft of electricity, to deal with the crisis of the infrastructure breakdowns. So unless we get leadership into a position that takes a stand against corruption, takes a stand against maladministration and wasteful expenditure, and can show us, before you go out there and get loans, what are you doing to reduce the waste? What are you doing to review all the contracts that you have, the bloated headcounts that you have? What are you doing to get your residents or your administrators back into work, back into the office at the Civic Centre? We know you've got to fix it, but a year later, on a minor fire and some slab that needs some reinforcing, for goodness sake, fix the city, get the administration back to work so that we can start engaging properly. The billing errors, the uncollected debt that is out there. This is basic leadership, basic management, basic systems that are collapsing. So we need good leadership, and we're appealing to the political entities. Stop playing musical chairs with the administration of this city. Stop moving people like the recent CEO of JRA out of his position, Louis Nel, because he is getting in the way of corruption, and then putting other people in that are not competent for those roles. We need professional leadership in every single department in the city. We need good finance management, and we need to fight the issue of corruption. So the political leaders have a lot to answer for here. And then we appeal to the public. We appeal to supporters out there. If you live in Johannesburg and you're not happy, come to this protest action, because protest is just one of the elements in the one arrow in the quiver of holding the city to account. But it is a very important one. We want you to show up, because the more people that show up, the more it is visible to the city that change has to happen. It's very safe, starts at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning at the Civic Centre. Be there. Thank you.
And Alta's providing coffee. Reverend Moss.
Thank you, Sean. Well, I represent the Evangelical Alliance. Delete that. The Defend Our Democracy campaign. I was talking there about my other incarnation. We stand here, obviously, in support to the Joburg Crisis Committee. This is a great city. The city that a lot of South Africans tend to gravitate toward with hopes of a better life, and it obviously holds and stewards the hopes of many people that come to it, and it is such a tragedy that the leadership that is presiding over this city has been very disappointing. And one of the things that Defend Our Democracy is agitating for is for residents across this country, but especially here in Johannesburg, precisely because it is a sort of city that I've described as a very great city on this continent, not only in South Africa, to have that agency to require more from the power holders in the city. And so the idea that the mayor of the city, along with his teammates on the mayoral committee, ought to really step down and fall upon their sword because of the maladministration that is going on, because of the seeming lack of consequence management, because of what appears to be, we know of the story of people who suffer and pay with their lives. Benedict Sithole is one example of somebody who was a forensic investigator of some maladministration in the city, and who was assassinated because of the fact that he was getting closer to what was actually the problem here. The fact that there is no consequence and no serious intention for the leadership of the city to actually get to the bottom of this, that rather they eliminate those people who seem to be helping us get to the bottom of it, seems to be precisely the reason that we feel they are not fit to run this city. what they have done in showing disrespect to participation by communities in terms of the way that they've raised the tariffs or allowed for the tariffs on electricity to be raised without due consultation and participation of residents of Johannesburg is part of the blatant disregard for the voices of ordinary people in the way that they said about their work. And so we believe that that must end, that the era of non-accountable governance is over, that we are sitting with a report from the Zonal Commission that is hanging over the affairs of this country, but also on the citizens of this country as a whole, that all of us are being invited to do what we can to make sure that there is no repetition of what Zondo found to be the case in our governance. And so we do wholeheartedly support this campaign and add our voice to the fact that all of us should support the campaign and the protest that has been indicated by colleagues here on this podium. Thank you.
And the Evangelical Alliance will be there.
We'll be there. Okay.
Ish Nkabela?
Move down that issue.
Yep.
Raish?
Just say school weight. School weight. I couldn't help reflecting why I'm a community organizer. On the 19th of October, 1977, I was already working for South African Committee for Higher Education, SACET. And newspapers, leaders, organizations were outlawed by the apartheid government. I used the F word together with my friends. The apartheid government will not dictate to us how we organize ourselves. Essentially, why I am here is because I believe that our society requires good institutions. If you have broken institutions, broken municipalities, broken churches, or synagogues, that community is really poor. The second thing, which actually motivated me, and I'm still here, good leadership makes a difference. Good leadership makes a difference in people's lives. But good leadership is nurtured by the citizens, the community within which they thrive. If you have broken leadership, citizens, look at yourself. It's easy to look at the politicians and say they are broken. But citizen, community, country, look at yourself. Because if we took ourselves seriously, we'll have no Gwamanda being a mayor of this city. You cannot teach a child to drive by giving a child a Rolls Royce. Think a bit. That's where we are. I also want to say, within these 5 minutes, a community which takes itself seriously believes in its values. It believes in its norms. It believes in ethics. So that community will give business, politicians, and everybody license to exist and act. But if we are not values-based, we will actually allow things to happen. I am here today, and we're looking at Saturday, that church leaders religious leaders, be they from the mosque, I think those who can be excused are those who honor the Sabbath. If they are not with us, Reverend Moss, there will be absence from work without permission. Indeed, Sunday sermons will be hypocritical noises because they have lost their values and what is important. Public life is accountability. Public life is being open. Public life means we have to recognize one another. So when politicians don't recognize citizens and citizens don't recognize their power, please go home where you will work and labor to be loved. So, what am I saying? It is time to fight. Fight or fat rather than do nothing. That's what we need to do. I repeat, fight or fat. It will make a difference. Thank you.
It's a wonderful new slogan into our political lexicon. But I guess when the sewage flows across the streets of Joburg, we can understand what the fat means. Fundamentally, this is about accountability at the top of an institution. We've learned from all the accountability that we've been doing over the last few years that if you try to fix up the street lights in your area, you actually don't know where to start. Because the person who is responsible for that feels that he or she can get away with not doing his or her job because those up the chain actually don't care. And we've learned that unless we escalate this issue to the top, we would be wasting our time trying to go to the bottom of it, which is why this call is focused on the mayor and his mayoral committee, because that's where accountability first and foremost must reside. I now open for questions. I'm hoping that we've covered all the issues, but anyway, let's take the first round.
Thank you so much. Just a quick question. What would be your response to those who are going to dismiss this as a human exercise, all to the fact that Al-Jamal President has said that Gwamanda can go anywhere, and that he still enjoys support from councillors in the municipality, especially those from the FM and the Alliance? So are they going to have a fix on him? Because surely I'm not going to drag him and his part of office is bringing less as part of the things, everything that's raised.
Good. Can I take the next?
That was a question from Kyle News. You know the structure within the city is already one of the coalition. So I'd just like to ask if removing the mayor within the context that it is a coalition structure here, do you think that will be the start of the process of trying to fix things? Is it about removing him? And you did mention that he is an individual part of a bigger group, but in terms of removing him, will that serve really any purpose? It's the politics of a coalition.
Good. Let's take the third one.
Let's travel from Gwamanda FM. Understanding that there would be some legal steps that need to be taken and other consideration, we have seen in the past when there's been interventions by the provincial government in terms of placing non-functioning municipalities under administration. Has there been any engagement with the Department of Corporate Governance and local governments as to why this intervention has not been considered in the city of Joburg, seeing that these are historic issues that have repeated themselves and have worsened over the years?
Let me take the last one and then we'll get a set of responses.
Yes, I'm Johnson and say, is there a preferred mayor that you would want for the city of Joburg?
Yeah, Ish. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm serious. I can't do it. I can't do it.
All right. Essentially, Tessa, you'll kick off. Is this a futile exercise given Al-Jama's responses. Will removal change anything, given that there is a coalition? Legal steps, engagements with the province, I think Wayne and others can take on here. Is there a preferred mayor? And I can answer that very quickly, no. So can we deal with the three questions?
Sure. To answer that question, Heidi, or to amplify the answer, there's not even a preferred coalition. I want the council, all of those councillors that are sitting there, whether they're PR councillors or ward councillors, and all their political parties, to look around that council chamber and tell us who is the best amongst them to lead. They have all the power to choose the best person amongst them to lead, and the best mayoral co to lead. They can make decisions that are rational, based on people's actual competence. And they can make a case to us as the residents that these people are the best people to lead. But either way, the point is that if those people don't lead, even if somebody else comes in and they don't live up to the task, our job is to meet our political consequences. There must be political consequences. And so whether or not it's Gwamanda today, honestly, Gwamanda's name could have been any other councillor in that chamber. We would be calling for that person to go. Because clearly the people that they've put up to the task right now are not listening to anyone. They're not standing up. They're not fixing the issues. They're not holding anyone in management accountable. So therefore they must go. And that's how our government works, right? The people who are we put there. We can't do anything. I can't fire the municipal manager. I can't do that. They can, but I can fire them. We hired them, we can fire them. So anyone who comes into that position must step up to the challenge of responding to the issues of the city or get out. And we have to get to that kind of culture in this country as a whole. In terms of what the steps are in terms of province, I think the provincial question is a very important question, and I would even pose that question to national government. Because the coalition that we have now has been backed up by the ANC government, right? Vanessa Lusufi is very much aware of who the people are who are part of this coalition. The ANC holds the purse of this province right now. So Gwamanda is a face, but Dada Moreira is holding the purse. And so the question must be asked at a provincial level. Do they have the political will to take action even against people that they see as comrades? There must be political action that is taken. I mean, parties talk all the time about how they would like an outright mandate. Even if you have an outright mandate, are you using the powers that are given to you in government to hold your oversight capacity and to hold people accountable? And the answer in the city of Johannesburg has been no for over 15 years now. We have not seen province move at all. We have not seen national move at all. The Section 139 gives powers to province and to national to dissolve a council if that council is not effective, if that council is in financial dire straits. Why provincial government has been quiet? We would like answers to that as well. We wrote to the president because we believe that the president cares about municipalities, like he said last week in his address, that he will use the powers that are invested at national level to do something about the city of Johannesburg. It cannot just be that we must shout from the outside, but no action is taken from the inside. The best people should lead the city. And if those councillors amongst themselves can't find the best people, maybe it's time for them to step down, for us to do mass by-elections across the city so we can get people in who are competent. 2026 is too far.
Thanks. Wayne, you got any comments on any of these questions?
I think Tess has covered it all. It is about, it's regardless of who the person is, if we don't have the competence, if we don't have the strong leadership and to hold people in the city to account who are running the various departments and divisions that are supposed to be running the service delivery, then we have a problem. So we need competence, but this is a political issue. And this message is to the politicians. You need to stop playing the games that you're playing, and we need to get in place the right leadership in the executive mayor and this committee.
Ish, come on.
I want to differ with Wayne that I actually feel that the joke is on citizens. That we are so polite, and every time we act and require them to fulfill what they have taken oath to achieve, we still are given a rule book. Read the book before you can talk. These guys definitely are fooling us. There are times where they will claim collective responsibility when they mess up. And when you say, all of you go, then they say, no, it's an individual. Now, we are taking a position where we say, whether this coalition is an individual or a collective, both of them are messing us up. In terms of what we have done, we have written to the president. We have written to him and we expected him to respond. But how do you comment about a president when he's your friend? The only advice I would do to make, respond. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe a general point about the GNU. It's a general point that I think is important to make in terms of the Government of National Unity coalition, some might want to call it. I think that it does present to us as a society in South Africa a new moment in which we have to discern what it is we want to do with this Government of National Unity. Do we lower our expectations from it, or do we keep the heat on with regard to how we hold them accountable? And I think that whether Al-Jamaa, for example, or any other party would insist on doing something that citizens are quite clearly opposed to, I think it is, again, issues right that we don't want it. It's not a democracy if in the last instance it is the power holders that get to decide. I think we have to have such a vibrancy in our democracy that makes it impossible for those in authority to ignore the citizens. And so I think that should hold as much for any single party that wins majority or the GNU. We should not lower our expectations just because it was a GNU. Yeah.
Can I? Yeah.
Amen, brother.
Can I just ask the SABC? You put out a wonderful clip here. There's my face, and it says Joburg Mayor addresses the media. Please, very far from it. I did serve in the interim local government structures, the pre-interim structures, the transitional metropolitan council, and the first council of Joburg. I've done this stint. There's no going back. Can I just say that in response to the president of Al-Jamaa, he's made different claims. In the one sense, he's saying he's going nowhere. In the other clips, he says, well, it depends on the ANC. Either way, Gwamanda, in our view, is not up to standards. Is not delivered as a mayor. He might be good as a councillor, but when you're managing an 80 billion rand budget as the executive mayor, him and his team have been found wanting in a variety of ways. Yesterday we were at a forum with Business Unity South Africa, and our message to business is that their investments in this city is worthy of greater attention and activism from themselves. Business has power. It needs to think about how it exercises that power, as do the citizens, residents, faith communities across the board. But the days of trying to cozy up to an administration that is failing is something that business has to rethink. It needs to join us in figuring out how to pressurize the city to change, and then to work with it in order to change it should we get to that particular position. Can we take another round of questions if there are any? Just say which media you're from.
Good morning, no media.
Okay, no media, but let's hear your question.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Brenda Johnson. The stone thrower of 1976. Yes, we are the rock. We thought things would change, but it did not. Protest is good and all that. I'm from Moral Regeneration / Joburg, all the alliances are part of it. The only burning issue now we are facing, it's not only the metros and the mayor, but here we are facing with safety and security. Our people are dying, our children are dying there outside, and nothing is happening. And we felt so much as women, as safety promoters, to hold the sex accountable, to hold everyone accountable, even the president, even whoever. But nothing is coming to the party. People, children are dying each and every minute, every second. What are we going to do? Is this protest going to be so beneficial for us? Why can't we just take out, because we are the bosses of these people. We are the stakeholders, the major stakeholders. Can't we go sit in their offices and have the sittings if we are not going to get our answers on the 27th?
Well, first we have to get the center open. But I think it's an important point about where we need to consider going. Can we take the next question?
Morning, Alpha Ramushwana here from Eyewitness News. I think Tessa mentioned in other parts of the country the dissolution of council. Do you believe this should happen in Joburg? And we know that the 2/3 majority is required for the dissolution of council. Do you think that should be the way forward for the city of Joburg?
Good. We'll address the solution.
Mas Chava again from Jacaranda FM. I think, pardon me, I didn't get the lady's name, but
Brenda.
Brenda speaks to basically the leading to the question that I'm about to ask. There's been a decline, if you like, in terms of public participation, whether it is in deciding policy, whether it is in holding government at all levels accountable. And at the heart of it is the lack, or rather inefficient, civic education. Protest is a way of holding the powers that be to account. But there's steps that we're missing along the way, because I imagine that would be the final, core. What are we doing as organizations under this umbrella to promote civic education, and what else needs to be done? Because I imagine it should be a responsibility of the government as well to educate the general public about what they're entitled to, their rights, and how they can hold the powers that be at whatever level accountable. So civic education is at the heart of all of this. What is being done to address that before we get to even what the problems are and who should head out?
A very important question. We'll get people to answer it who are doing bits and pieces of work in that regard. Nobody on that side, we're done. Right, can we get 2 responses? When or if you want to deal with this issue of dissolution of council, Wayne first?
Not civic.
No. Let's just deal with the first question. We'll talk about all that we're doing around civic education.
I think, there are various levels of accountability or oversight that are not being exercised. So certainly, as Tessa said, we believe Gauteng province is part of the problem as well, because they should have taken action a long time ago. But then you have Treasury, then you have COGTA, and fortunately we have a new minister in COGTA, Flavisa, who's making the right noises. I think his focus should be on this capital, this economic hub of this country, because, as was mentioned earlier, we cannot have the decay that is happening right here now. So we need to use all these levels. If the President isn't going to answer our questions, then we must look at how we bring legal action as citizens to have the council dissolved, as was done in Makanda and other areas. So there are legal avenues, there is protest action, there is putting pressure on all levels of oversight, and we need to exercise those right up to Parliament. We need to probably present ourselves as a case in Parliament and force the executives in those structures to start holding people to account. So we have to look at all of these avenues. This protest action is just one, but it is the start of many, and I like the idea of sit-ins now. We need to go and ensure that the authorities feel the pressure of the people now. And then to the question of business. You cannot, as business, be absent in this process. Your assets will be stranded. We cannot have this emigration and head offices and people moving out of the city. We need to bring Joburg back to the vibrance and the economic hub that it was and is and should be, far better than what it is. Business has a big role to play in this, and that cannot be absent.
Just speak about your civic education work.
Well, we've launched community action networks around the country, so we are engaging with various residents associations, community associations, business chambers to understand their rights, to understand the power that they have when they act collectively. We've recently launched Joburg Community Action Network, where we're working with various resident associations as well and community associations to understand that collectively we have a lot more power. And that's the type of stuff that Rivonia Circle is doing. So we're doing this in various ways, but this alliance now starts to bring the strings together. And I think we're going to see a lot more civil activism from a constructive point of view to start holding the councillors to account. We put them there, but we should be able to easily remove them. And we shouldn't have to wait 5 years to do so.
Good. Tessa, you've been doing a lot of work around civic education and so forth. You want to share some of that with the audience here?
Sure. So the question about empowering each other as citizens is probably one of the most important questions, right? And so civil society across the board does a lot of that work. We do the work of going to communities and engaging them. So for us as Rivonia Circle, across the country we've done 100 democracy builders in the last 2 years, where we've gone in, done workshops with communities, empowered them in terms of their political rights, their political activism, and we have seen these communities come to life. We've seen these communities even work with the city and with government to start up mobile clinics, to start up groups in their communities around LGBTQR rights. We've seen people actually take action. We've seen people start up, but you have to actually invest in that. And we have a chronic underinvestment in civil society. We have a chronic underinvestment in civic education and civic conversations. I mean, if we see what the outcome of our elections are, we have a chronic underinvesting in voter education. All of our attention is on the politics and on the politicians. And I want to say to the media particularly, somebody actually asked me this question yesterday. He asked me, is it useful for us to even continue doing civic work with communities when communities actually do things and take action if the media is never going to cover it? The truth is we need the media to come and cover the work we do on a day-to-day basis in the communities. We're not able to pull together 500 people this week just because we're cute people. We do that because we're in communities, empowering communities on a day-to-day basis. We're not sitting in air-conditioned offices. As the people sitting here, the Ahmed Katana Foundation itself has young people who do this work across Joburg as well. So we need more eyes and ears on that and more investment into that work so that we have sustained action. And to the point that you made, Gwamanda, this is the beginning, not the end. It's going to take years to fix the city of Johannesburg. And what we need to do is not say the problem has been solved when the mayor has been changed. We need to get a tick list of the things that need to happen in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months. In fact, in the next 3 months, we need a list of demands that is going to be time-bound, month by month, clear, deliverable, and we have to show up for each other for those demands. So if there's a community that needs to go and speak to the city because they're experiencing load reduction and they want to understand what's going on, and the community of Yeoville is one of those communities, if they need to go and sit in somebody's office, I'm going to call on the residents of Johannesburg from all over to join the residents of Yeoville to go and do that sitting. There's going to be rolling action and a pressure campaign in the city like we have never seen before if we get up and we show up for each other's issues. That's what an alliance is about. That's what a crisis alliance is about. So this is not a one-day action. This is going to be a rolling action. If you want us to come and sit in somebody's office with you, I will be there. I will be there for days. We will sit together. It's fine. But that's what this work is about.
Raish, civic education?
Yeah,
Any comments?
Civic education is really about citizens. Corporate citizens may mean business people. I think those guys need good dose of civic education. Every time we think of civic education, we think about Mrs. KABELO, who is even much more astute. The business guys, captains of industry, your colleagues Mfundis, those who preach too much. I mean, religious leaders, they need good civic education if we are to build people's power. Brenda, I don't protest to a non-existing party. It's just that words are difficult to use. Saturday is not a protest. It's a statement that this fake mayor's time or term is over. It's not a protest. You protest to a party you recognize. Thank you. One point. The media. I actually feel that apartheid would not have gone down if we did not have a media which was civic-minded, was part of the movement, the liberation movement. But if we have a media which would like to be spectators and they expect 73-year-olds like Ish to dance for them so that they report, they've missed it. You are part of the movement, guys. Play like one. Thank you.
Good. Reverend Moss, any comments?
Yeah.
Then we close.
Playing musical chairs is hard.
It is to play, in a sense, the idea of civic education is something that all of us would vouch for. I suspect that the problem is that even politicians need civic education. So yes. I think we should not only target the ordinary people in South Africa and business and other actors, religious communities. A lot of our politicians don't seem to know what it is that they are hired to do by government. For many of them, it is still a gravy train. For many of them, it is an opportunity to eat. For many of them, they don't know what is wrong with what they're doing. And so the idea that they know is often one that we will only realize after state capture has taken place. Then we realize people didn't actually know what they were doing and what they were expected to do. So I think to the degree possible, if we can see the project of civic education as part of what you do with a 30-year-old democracy to make it work across the board. Not only ordinary people, but even, and perhaps protest actions are a way to school politicians about what democracy is, because I doubt they will attend any public meeting to educate them. So action might be the best way to school these stakeholders.
Okay, let me just make some closing remarks and then we can move.
You must speak like a mayor.
Appointed by the
SABC.
Appointed by the SABC. We've learned in terms of civic education and civic activism. Let me just give you 3 simple examples. You have a community of Finetown, a clinic built, not open for about 5 years, and a community looking at this thing, not knowing what to do. We set up what is called Action for Accountability in that area, and then started the basic work of figuring out who's responsible for this, who's accountable for this facility not being open. Ultimately, it took community pressure onto provincial government and the MEC for Health to get this thing open. You had the community of Lahai, a wonderful library built, unopened. Again, no answers. That community had to learn the basics of who's responsible, what did it cost, who had the contract, why is this thing not open, and serious public pressure had to be undertaken to force that library to be opened. You have the Joburg library now, closed for more than 4 years. It took Flowbird and the Heritage Society, together with artists and authors and writers and publishers, to go and demonstrate there, to say that we want answers. What I think we all need to realize is that the dysfunctionality of the city allows it to almost escape basic governance, which is the provision of information. Try putting an access to information to this city is a nightmare. But it's not what we must accept. And it is those basic areas of work that we need to fix up so that as citizens, we can do the kind of oversight work, we can do the kind of fixing work. But when you don't have information, when you don't have financial information and every other bits of information, that work is just hard. But it's not work that we will not be doing. Today the council meets, I think, right? I guarantee you, in the audience, there's not a single civil society representative, business representative, aside from the media people who are following this. That culture of not being present in council by ourselves is something we have to change. There are council meetings that are open to the public, but trying to get access into the metro center, even to attend council meetings, is a nightmare. You have to write to the speaker, and they read, they give you permission. If you get it in time, you're lucky, and then only can you attend. So you can't walk in anymore to attend the council meetings. And that's what we have to begin to change. You don't have access to what they are going to discuss in council meeting today. Most other modern cities would put these agendas out a week or more in advance, so that if you are a citizen, you know what they are going to discuss. And if before and you think you want to oppose any issue that is being discussed, or you have an alternative, you have the ability to do that. We don't. As citizens, we are completely clueless about what they are going to discuss there today. Many of the councillors would have received the agenda pack perhaps 2 days ago only, if they were lucky. How they prepare for these meetings then is a mystery as well. So the dysfunctionality is huge. Fixing it will take a long time. We think we're at the starting block only now. So bear with us as we build, and as Isha said, we need everybody on board as we begin this process. We don't have all of the answers, but we think collectively there is sufficient wisdom in the city. One of the key sectors you didn't talk about was the academic institutions in this city, who need to come on board with all of their expertise and their ideas to begin this process of rebuilding. Let me just thank all of you for your presence here, and we hope to see all of you there on Saturday, together with the multitudes of Johannesburg citizens. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.